Hello and welcome to this lecture where we will be exploring how to modify users in Active Directory in bulk with PowerShell. So in this lecture, we are going to explore certain things to do with some of the accounts that we've been creating over the past couple of lessons. So I'm just going to go to my Active Directory snap-in so we can explore some of the things that we want to modify. So when we are at the moment, if you view every user in various OUs, for instance, when you go to sales and marketing, when I go to Tracy, she doesn't have an office information. She doesn't have well, she has organization information. When you go to her general, she doesn't have an office. She doesn't have an email. Well, office, let's say office, for instance. So if you go to John as well, John has an office called Dublin. And these accounts are disabled. I'm just going to enable them. So this account, for instance, also doesn't have an office, but we know they are all in Dublin. Barry McCarthy, no office information. Doesn't have a department. And Alfred doesn't have an office and doesn't have a department. So an OU like this, for instance, obviously you'd realize each and every user don't have certain common information that's supposed to be applicable to all of them. So how do you modify this? So assuming you have this kind of scenario and it's about 1,000 or 100 people in the OU, which is a sales and marketing OU, and you want to modify their, say, office and their, say, department, because it's the same for all of them. Are you going to go to modify each and every one of them and manually type in their information, Dublin? Yes, but then that would take you a mountain of hours to get through. So how do you modify users in bulk? From a beginner point of view, using PowerShell. So these are some of the use cases that it might be worth trying. So you can modify users in bulk for users if their properties are identical, so that you can just pipe all of them, search them all together, and then you would apply just one command that would set all their attributes for that specific, for all those various users to have a specific attribute for, say, office Dublin or department sales, right? So that's what we're going to explore in this video, in this lecture. So let's open our PowerShell. We'll keep this on the side. I'm just going to open this. And what I will do is I'll change the directory and I'll bring it to the normal root of C, clear this. And what we want to do here is that we want to start building the command from what we've learned from the previous lessons. So for instance, for now, let's just say we want to get information on all users in, let's say, all users within the organization, right? So go with a get ActiveDirectory cmdlet, ActiveDirectory. I use my tab to autocomplete, and we will go to filter, autocomplete. We want everything under filter. Then we are looking for properties, and then we want everything to do with properties. And then we would say only give us information on all users, their name, their office, and say their department. So we have all the users that are within the tenant, which includes all the users we created using the bulk ActiveDirectory script. And you can see that some are blank, some are not blank. And obviously, all those are in Dublin. You'd realize that they're all in their specific OUs. So Dublin, let's say the company is based in Dublin, so it means you probably want Dublin to be the office for all the users, and you wanted your department obviously to be specific. So ICT will be specific, and one way you can identify people who are supposed to be in the ICT department, they would be in the ICT OU, like here. So that means there's a way we can filter a list of all users that are within this department, and then we can build on that command and then just maybe modify their specific attributes that has to do with department. So we'll start off by getting everyone to have the office department, right? So what we'll do is we're going to build on this command, and we would build on just modifying the office attributes. So we would bring back the command, and then we have the filter already. What we want to do is we want to pipe this and say, thank you for giving me the output. But now we want to do something else. We use a Set-ADUser command, and then we would say the switch is, the attribute is, say, office. And then we want to set the office to Dublin. And then we hit return. So that didn't work. So it means the way we build the output from scratch to get to that point before we give it a switch to say we want to build on that and then use that to modify the users in bulk, that's not going to work. So the input object cannot be bound to any parameter for the command either, because the command does not take pipeline inputs. So the get user doesn't take that kind of input. Well, it takes, but whatever parameter, whatever switch you're using to build the list in the first place, it doesn't take it. So I'm just going to clear this because it's looking horrible. And what we want to do is we want to change the get user switch. So we'll bring back the get user, get ActiveDirectory. I keep on making this mistake about get user. I'm just so used to saying get user. Get ActiveDirectory. And we want to, rather saying we want to go with, say, the filter, we want to rather go for search, right? So we would go for search. So search base. And then we would go to specify a path where we wanted to search. So let's say we want to look at a specific OU called, say, ICT department. ICT department. And the DC is equal to Extracia. DC equal local. And then we'll close the parentheses. That's the path. And we want to filter this, all the information, and we want it to pipe through, and it would give us, first let's basically see what it gives us, FL name. So these are the users. So these users, for instance, chef has Dublin, has Dublin as well. Okay, so these users already have Dublin as an office. So we'll try sales and marketing. So what we'll do is we'll go back to this, and then we'll change to OU to sales and marketing department. Right? So we have Elena and all this. Okay. And we know some of them, for instance, Tracy doesn't have an office called Dublin. John Fergal doesn't have an office. Oh, he has. Doesn't have. So we'll just say whoever is in this department, which is a sales OU, we want to basically set their ActiveDirectory office to Dublin. And that's done. And nothing shows, but that's done. And if we go to Active Directory on the side, we refresh this, and then we go to Tracy, you'd see that she has Dublin now, and Barry has Dublin as well. Fred has Dublin as well. Okay. So at this level of search, you can apply the modification to a specific OU rather than trying to apply it to the whole organization from using just a basic filter switch using the get ActiveDirectory commandlet. So the next OU we need to just double check is, say, the developers department. So I would just repeat the same script, the same command, but I'll change the department OU to developers department. Now hit return, right? And then we would do the same for what other department we have. We have developers, we have finance department. Do we have any users in finance? No, we don't have any users in finance. ICT, sales and marketing. Okay. So I'd say we are okay with the OUs we've modified so far. So what we'll do is go back to the first command again. And we want to just get all users now and their name, office, and department. And now we have all these accounts that are not having Dublin, except obviously these are default accounts that are normally not used. So administrator guest and this MSOL. So we have Cynthia and we have Joseph. So Cynthia and Joseph, where do they belong? So what I'll do is I'll basically just use find and I'll search for Cynthia. Or you could actually just use the get user command. Get ActiveDirectory Cynthia. Cynthia is a user. Okay, the show command doesn't actually give you information about where the object location is. So I just go to Cynthia properties, go to object. She is in users containers. Okay, so we have Cynthia in users containers. So when you go to users, we have Cynthia here and we have Joseph here. So let's say they're supposed to be in whatever OU. Let's see, Joseph has no description, nothing. Cynthia. So we'll leave it like that. We'll leave them like that because we didn't create them with a specific target OU in the first place. Anyway, so that's how you go about modifying users in bulk. So the same thing can be amended, and then you can set your departments all per OU to have specific value. And when it comes to modifying bulk users at this beginner level, that's how you go about it. So it saves you the time of going through every account one by one to modify that attribute for a specific user. We tried it at the all users approach, but it didn't work. It works better when you use a search-based switch, and that narrows the search to a specific OU that the functionality or whatever you want to set can be applied to. So that's all I have for modifying users in bulk, and particularly to do with their attributes. At the higher level, you might be looking into how to modify users in bulk. For instance, if all the users are disabled, how do you modify all specific users within a specific group and enable the account? It's very simple. All you need to know is know how to get the result first, make sure you're in the right switch, and then pipe the output into the specific set user attribute and enable it. Okay, so what I would do is I would leave it here, and I'll see you in the next video where we are going to explore what we call PowerShell scripting. So when you have repetitive tasks that you're doing every day that you don't have time to be always going into PowerShell to be writing down the scripts all over again, writing down the commands over again like the way I just did. There's a possibility that you can create it in a way that whenever you go into your domain controller, you can just run the PowerShell command as a script, and then it gives you whatever desired output you want to use it for. So those desired outputs should be equal to things that you do repetitively in your day-to-day activities as a system administrator. For instance, on a day-to-day basis, every morning when you come, you want to quickly find out which accounts are locked so you can unlock them or investigate why. You don't have to manually be going into looking into every user account to find out which accounts are locked. You can have a command written down somewhere that will be saved and can be run, and it will give you that output in an Excel file or in whatever format you want, and then you can work on it rather than waiting for people to come back to you to saying, I can't get into my account. So that will bring us into the next topic, which is PowerShell scripting for everyday administrative tasks, how to go about creating those scripts. Thanks, and I'll see you in the next video.